And the second thing he says you don't see is this. You don't see that at one point, it was very scary for me. I didn't even know if the parachute was going to open, but I jumped, right? I jumped. And I just trusted the Lord that he would make it happen. Now, I'll give you this stat, right? So 48% of millennials, 48% of them will say, God is calling me to a different line of work, ... But I'm not going to do it. So they wrote yes to that. Like, God is telling me to do something else. I know I'm not wondering anymore. I know he's calling me to do something else, but I'm not, but that's it. Like, I'm not willing to make that jump, right? So they're like, I will live in disobedience. Yes, right? Like, that's basically what they're saying, right? Why? Because there's parental pressure, there's financial pressures, there's social pressures to do this or the other. But I would encourage you to do this. I would encourage you to think of someone like Steve Harvey, who, if you YouTube him, and actually I believe he's a follower of the Lord. He had a hot mic that he didn't know it was on. It was done, Family Feud was done. He's just talking to the audience. And suddenly, and they was still recording it with the camera. Some of you guys have seen it. It's like an 8-minute, 9-minute, it's really cool. It's practically a sermon on calling. I think he actually uses the word calling. But you got to YouTube it. Steve Harvey, Family Feud, jump. Like if you look that up, he'll say this. He said, look, all of you guys see me, Steve Harvey, big time, whatever, Warner, you guys see me, and all you see is this like level of greatness that I've achieved. But what you don't see is two things. One, 20 years of just grinding it out, making anywhere from $50 to $250 a month, which even with inflation is very small. And the second thing you don't see, so that's my encouragement to you, is just grind out your gift and your. And the second thing he says you don't see is this. You don't see that at one point it was very scary for me. I didn't even know if the parachute was going to open, but I jumped. Right? I jumped. And I just trusted the Lord that he would make it happen. Now, what I'm not saying is everyone drop out, go to, make that film or move to Africa, whatever. Like, no, maybe, but probably not. What I'm saying is this. I know somebody, and this, who I was referring to earlier, here's Ralph. I know somebody who did jump, right? He jumped, and he made X-Men and all that. And he said, okay, now it's time. I'm going to make a production company. Myself, Phil Cook, and one other, 3 of us, are going to make this production company. They need to raise $10 million to make that production company fly. They raised the first $5 million. Before they can get to the next 5, when they were taking trips to meet donors and so forth, they burned through their first 5. So it never took off. So he jumped, but he didn't have a parachute, and it didn't land well. So how do you know whether to go, oh man, you watch a Steve Harvey YouTube video, right? And you're all inspired, like, and then I've been there, right? Or Gary V or whoever, Tony Robbins or like whoever, right? You're like ready to go. And then Ralph even take a calculated risk, and he went for a production company, but it didn't work out. So how do you know which to do? And I actually think there's a couple answers to that question. Maybe I'll just mention 2. One of which is mentors, like I talked about. It's really important to get a mentor who really knows you well. And there's ways to think about what a good mentor is. And we can talk about that maybe afterwards, or you can buy me a steak dinner and then I'll, whatever. But the second thing is actually what I call the 5-25 principle. And if you want to know what that is, you do have to buy me a steak dinner. Let's pray. No, I'm kidding. Oh my gosh. I mean, right? No, it's actually this. It's just Galatians 5:25. Right? Galatians 5:25 says, if we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. You've got to have such a strong community and of mentoring going on in your life that you can, together with them, discern the timing of when you are to jump, right? So let me just encourage you with that, you guys. Most of my life, I live in regret. You guys are like, oh, that's terrible. I live in regret in the sense of I live out my regret by trying to redeem my regret. One of the things I've experienced, I did so many things in my life. I worked at a law firm. Like I said, I started a clothing company. I did a lot of things in my life, right? I wish I had some of this on the front end because it would have saved a lot of heartache. So out of my regret, I'm trying to live and sort of redeem it by kind of sharing with you guys. But I would want to have you take calling as sort of a filter, a lens through which you receive all other messages. Do you see what I'm saying? Because then every message applies into you in a particular way that's the way that you're shaped, the way that you're supposed to be called, right? So I would encourage you to just really think through this stuff on calling, and would love to connect in various ways here, maybe chat afterwards. But at this point, let me just pray.